As the quality control manager at an import company, I had to finish checking in the last batch of king crabs before the national daybreak. The moment I stepped into the minus 18 degrees Celsius freezer, the main door locked behind me, and the alarm system went dead. Realizing I needed to warm myself immediately, I pulled the heat packs from my emergency kit. But the second I pressed one to my skin, an icy chill shot through me. I knew something was wrong. The cold ripped a scream out of me. My fiancé, Eric Chen, burst into wild laughter over the walkie-talkie. We're live streaming a challenge, locking the company's ice queen in the freezer to see how long she can last. Lena Shi, the female coworker on duty with him, chimed in, sugary sweet. Rachel, give our live stream family a smile, okay? Our top patron wants to see it. In a flash I understood. They were pranking me on a live stream. They hadn't just locked me in, they'd also swapped my life-saving heat packs for fever-cooling patches. I clenched my teeth, forced myself to stay calm, and asked them for help. Give me the backup heat packs. Now. Eric's voice came back, careless. Oh, Lena has a cold constitution and she's on her period. We gave her the backups to warm her belly. You're strong. Jump around a bit and you'll heat up. You might even pick up a tip from our top patron. I stopped arguing. With fingers going numb, I pulled out the flare gun and aimed at the most expensive, most mysterious cargo in the freezer. A single canister of frozen sperm worth 200 million. The flare gun's metal bit into my palm as I leveled the muzzle at the silver tank etched with AF001. Eric Chen, are you sure you want to take it this far? My voice trembled from the cold, but my tone was steady. His laughter cut off. Lena's panicked voice followed. Rachel, don't be impulsive. That thing isn't something you can mess with. Oh? Now you know not to mess with it? I let out a frosty laugh, my breath blooming white in front of me. Where was that caution when you locked me in here? Eric tried to bluff it out. Rachel Quinn, don't try to scare us. It's just a prank. No need to take it out on the company's valuables. Do you even know what that is? Put the flare gun down. Now. I ignored him and tapped the tank beside me with my free hand. The clear, ringing notes sliced through the dead-still freezer. This is Mr. Carter's lifeblood. He spent 200 million on it, got it from a tribal chief in Africa because he wants an heir. Rumor is it's a once-in-a-century top-tier gene line. I handled the check-in myself as QC manager. You think I don't know what it is? The walkie went silent. I could picture Eric and Lena paling in the monitoring room. They knew exactly how valuable it was. The day it arrived, Mr. Carter oversaw everything himself and even required brand new gloves for the movers. He said if anything happened to this shipment, everyone involved would disappear from this city. Lena's voice came back, tearful and aggrieved, as if she were the one wronged. Rachel, we were just joking, trying to liven things up. You're always so cold and everyone's a little scared of you. Put the gun down, okay? Eric will open the door in a second. She had barely finished when Eric jumped in. Right, we were just kidding. I'll get the door now. Maybe the old lock's circuitry froze up. Don't panic, I'm gonna grab tools. Listening to their little duet, the last scrap of warmth in me vanished. Froze up? I said, voice like ice. This German constant temperature door operates just fine at minus 50. You think I'm an idiot? Drop the act. You have 10 seconds to open the door. And don't forget, you're still live. If Mr. Carter sees online that his pride and joy got ruined because of you, do you think you'll live to see tomorrow? 10 seconds. Open the door, now. I started the countdown. 10, 9. My frozen fingers settled on the flare gun's trigger. Over the walkie-talkie came Eric Chen's panicked growl, tangled with Lena Tsai's breathy whimper. You're insane, Rachel Quinn, you crazy woman. Lena squeaked. Eric, what do we do? The stream is blowing up. Our top patron says he wants to see her actually fire. Shut up. 3, 2. I was just about to squeeze the trigger when Eric practically shouted, Don't. I'll open it. I'm opening it right now. I let out a breath and the release made my whole body shake even harder. But 30 seconds crawled by, my breathing turned ragged, and the heavy door didn't budge. Eric's voice came back, light and oily. Ah, Rachel, my bad. I got too nervous and entered the passcode wrong 3 times. The electronic lock auto-secured. We'll have to wait for an engineer to unlock it. The bottom dropped out of my stomach. Even the nearest on-call engineer would take an hour to get here. Eric Chen, you're playing me. How is this playing you? He said, unable to hide the glee in his voice, as if he were savoring my despair. Call it fate. Even the heavens want you to cool off in there. Lena chimed in, feigning softness. Rachel, you can't get out anyway. Why not cooperate with the stream? Everyone wants to see our ice queen looking all delicate and pitiful in the freezer. Our top patron just sent 10 rockets and says if you do a little sword dance routine in there, he'll send 10 more. I trembled. From cold or fury, I couldn't tell. They had never intended to let me out. The wrong passcode was just an excuse to drag this cruel livestream out. Eric Chen, aren't you afraid I'll really destroy this thing? I raised the flare gun again, but this time my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. You won't, he said, calm now, all fear gone. Rachel, I know you too well. Your sense of duty is stronger than anyone's. You put the company's interests above your own life. Last time, to rush a shipment, you stood guard over the warehouse with a high fever. This time is no different. You can't bring yourself to ruin it. You don't dare. His words slid like a knife straight into my heart. He did know me, and he was using that sense of duty to kill me. His tone cooled. And I'd advise you not to try anything. I've already reported to Mr. Carter that you're doing a routine inspection. To be absolutely safe, you'll be stationed in the freezer area tonight. He even praised your dedication and said he'd give you a bonus. If you touch that canister, how are you going to explain yourself when Mr. Carter gets here? Shameless. He had flipped the truth and poisoned every way out. If I died in here, it would be a dedicated worker's accident. If I destroyed the cargo to save myself, it would be theft and malicious damage. Either way, I lost. A cold rose from the soles of my feet and flooded upward until even the spaces between my bones felt frozen. My thoughts blurred, my vision dimmed. No, I can't die here. I gripped a frost-bitten rack and forced myself upright. Eric Chen, for the sake of the fact that we're about to be married. My voice carried a thread of pleading, my last hope. If you let me out, I'll pretend none of this happened. The other end of the walkie went quiet for a moment. I almost believed he might soften. Then Lena's airy little remark shattered that illusion. Oh, Rachel, you don't know yet, do you? Eric's already decided to call off the engagement. He says being with you is exhausting, like trying to warm a block of ice. Lena dragged out her words, full of pride and smug glee. I'm pregnant. It's Eric's child. We're getting engaged next month. Boom, my mind went blank. Pregnant. Breaking the engagement. So this wasn't some spur-of-the-moment prank. It was a long-planned murder. They wanted me dead so they could be together openly. Rachel, don't blame me. Eric's voice came again, cold and bloodless. Blame yourself for being boring. Too domineering. Kelly's gentler than you, more considerate. Men aren't like you. Just go in peace. Your career, your love, everything, Kelly will take good care of it for you. Despair wrapped me like a giant net and pinned me in place. I slid down the rack to the floor, feeling my strength drain away by the second. Just then, footsteps sounded outside the freezer, and an older voice called out, Eric, it's so late. Why aren't you off work? What are you doing in the monitoring room? It was the night shift security guard, Mr. Warren. A spark of hope flared in me. I grabbed the walkie with everything I had left and screamed, Mr. Warren, help me. I'm locked in the freezer. No sooner had I shouted than Eric's steady voice filled the channel. Still here, Mr. Warren, pulling a little overtime. He must have switched the walkie off the public channel, because Mr. Warren didn't hear me at all. Rachel's inside, doing a final inventory. Last batch before the national day break. She won't rest unless she oversees it herself. We're just keeping her company in case anything comes up. Lena jumped in, syrupy as ever. That's right, Mr. Warren. Rachel's super dedicated. We told her to call it a night, but she wouldn't. She even said the freezer's nice and cool, it helps her focus. Mr. Warren seemed convinced, and his tone turned approving. Well, Rachel's a responsible girl. You two are working hard, too. All right then, carry on, I'll check the other areas. His footsteps faded. With a few offhand lines, they snuffed out my last sliver of hope. I slumped on the floor and stared at the sealed door. The channel clicked back to private, and Eric's mockery came through crystal clear. Hear that, Rachel? Everyone thinks you're a workaholic, a tough-as-nails career woman. Even if you freeze to death in there, they'll call you a model employee who died on the job and use you as a positive example in training. Lena's laughter turned brazen. Rachel, listen. Our top patron just sent 10 carnivals. He says if you get on your knees and bark like a little dog, he'll have Eric turn the temperature up a bit. How about it? Willing to consider. Humiliation, naked and raw. They didn't just want my life, they wanted to grind my dignity to dust first. I bit down so hard the taste of blood spread in my mouth. My body grew colder and colder. My eyelids felt weighted with lead. I knew this was mid to late stage hypothermia. If this continued, I'd lose consciousness soon, then my heart would stop. Was I really going to die here, killed by a scheme crafted by my own fiancé and his mistress? No, I refused. With the last of my strength, I braced against the rack and forced myself, swaying to my feet. Since they refused to leave me a way out, we'd all go down together. I gathered the very last scrap of strength in my body, and as I nearly slipped, steadied the hand holding the flare gun. I didn't aim at the canister this time. I lifted the muzzle slightly and targeted the yellow, deadly layer of insulation above the rack. Something in my movement finally set Eric Chen on edge. His arrogant laughter stopped. You're really gonna do it? For the first time, true panic edged his voice. I didn't answer. I squeezed the trigger with everything I had. The gun gave a dull bang. A blinding red streak like an enraged fire serpent leapt into the yellow foam. In the next second, flame exploded outward. Lena's shriek tore through the walkie-talkie. Fire, there's a fire. Eric's voice followed, frantic and ragged. Put it out. Put it, damn it. But it was already too late. The shrill factory-wide fire alarm detonated over us, drowning out every laugh and scream. Polyurethane foam insulation is flammable. Once ignited, the blaze spreads fast and releases thick smoke laced with highly toxic cyanide compounds. That was lesson 1 in my QC onboarding. Eric and Lena had clearly forgotten. Fire burst before my eyes. Acrid smoke flooded my nose and mouth. I didn't dodge. Instead, I drew a deep breath straight into the haze. The scalding air rushed into my frozen lungs, and the violent coughing snapped a sliver of clarity back into me. I had to stay conscious. A fire triggers the highest level alarm. The suppression system would flood the freezer with high-concentration carbon dioxide. Rescue might not come before I suffocated. Dragging legs that were going stiff, I clawed my way toward the door. Every inch felt like someone was scraping knives along my bones. Over the walkie, Eric and Lena's screams and curses tumbled into terrified sobbing. Maniac, she's a maniac. The smoke, there's so much smoke. Eric, what do we do? The alarms, everyone in the plant. How should I know? Run. Footsteps, crashes, crying, they dropped the walkie and fled, leaving me alone in the fire and poison. I laughed. My lungs burned like they were on a grill, but I still laughed. Fine. If I had to take the road to hell, at least those two would be on it with me. I flattened myself to the floor. Under the twin assault of toxic smoke and brutal cold, my awareness thinned. Just as my eyes were about to shut, the door I thought would never open slammed wide with a thunderous crack. A shaft of blinding light cut in. People rushed inside, more than one. Firefighters, and Mr. Warren in his security uniform. There's someone here, get her out. They lifted me onto a stretcher. Through the jolting rush, I glimpsed the monitoring room empty. Eric Chen and Lena Shai had really run. They set me on the ambulance gurney and clamped an oxygen mask over my face. I gulped air and, through my blur of vision, saw Mr. Carter's face, iron blue with rage. A shivering figure stood beside him, Lena, dragged back. Rachel. Mr. Carter lunged to the ambulance, gripping my hand. How's my baby? I stared at him, tugged the mask down, and forced the words out. The canister's intact, but the insulation burned and the cooling's down. Every second the temperature's rising. Your baby boy is about to get cooked. Mr. Carter went white. He dropped my hand and tore off toward the freezer like a madman. Call the specialists, prep liquid nitrogen. Save it at all costs. I watched his back, pulled the mask into place again, and let my eyes close. Eric Chen, Lena Shai. Mr. Carter, this show has only just begun. I woke up in the hospital. Severe hypothermia combined with inhalation lung injury, the doctor said it was a miracle I'd been dragged back from the brink. Lying in the bed, I stared at the moon outside the window. Today was National Day and also mid-autumn, a holiday meant for family reunions. My parents died years ago. My only family was my fiancé, Eric Chen, the fiancé who wanted me dead. The door to my room swung open. Eric and Lena Shai walked in, with Eric's parents right behind them. "Rachel, you're awake, thank heaven." Eric's mother rushed to my bedside, squeezing out a few tears. "Child, how could you be so foolish? Even if you don't approve of Eric and Lee, you can't set a fire and try to kill yourself." I looked at them, unable to speak, turning black into white. That whole family excelled at it. Eric's father set his face in a stern elder's pose. "Rachel, you went too far. The company's losses are huge. Mr. Carter is furious. Eric and Lena have both lost their jobs and face massive damages. Are you satisfied now?" I stared back, cold. "What are you talking about?" My voice was hoarse, like sandpaper on metal. "What do you mean I set a fire to kill myself?" Lena immediately ducked behind Eric, wearing a wronged expression. "Rachel, we know you're angry, but you can't lie. The surveillance footage shows it all. You fired the flare yourself. We couldn't stop you." Eric nodded, his face full of pained sincerity. "Rachel, I know you blame me, but we really just wanted to play a joke on you. We never meant to hurt you. You got too emotional and did something rash. Now that things have blown up, let's shoulder it together, okay? Tell the police and Mr. Carter it was an accident. For the sake of the baby Lena's carrying, and since we're about to get married, shut up." The words ripped out of me. "Who's about to marry you?" "Eric Chen, do you have any shame?" The shout tore at my injured lungs. A violent cough left me gasping. Eric's mother hurried over to pat my back, all fake concern. "Oh, don't get worked up, your health comes first. Eric's saying this for your own good. With a temper like yours, what man could stand it? Lena is wonderful, gentle and obedient, and she's carrying our grandchild. You're like a hen that can't lay eggs, hogging the roost. Does that make sense?" Her words were a knife dipped in poison, driven straight into my heart. A hen that can't lay eggs. We'd been together 3 years, and hadn't tried for a child because Eric said he wasn't ready. He said he wanted to wait until his career was stable so he could give me a steady home. Lies. He wasn't unready, he was waiting for another woman to bear his child. "Get out." I pointed at the door with everything I had. "All of you, get out. How dare you?" Eric's father exploded, lifting his hand to strike me when a figure in uniform stepped in front of my bed. "Police investigation. Irrelevant persons, step aside." 2 officers came in, faces set. At the sight of them, the Chen's arrogance instantly deflated. "Officers, this is a family matter." "We received a report," the lead officer said, giving me a brief look before turning to Eric Chen. "Miss Rachel Quinn is suspected of intentional arson endangering public safety. Eric Chen and Lena Shai, you are suspected of unlawful confinement and attempted murder. Please come with us." In the interrogation room at the precinct, the lighting was a sickly white. Through the one-way glass, I watched Eric and Lena in the next room. They were still performing. "Officers, we're being framed. We were just joking with her." "Yeah, it was one of those prank live streams, super popular online right now. We never thought she'd take it seriously, let alone start a fire. He's under too much pressure, his mental state's a little unstable." Their script was exactly what my parents once said. I stared at them, feeling as if an invisible hand had clenched tight around my heart. An officer set a tablet on the table and opened a video, screen capture from the streaming platform, submitted anonymously. Eric's wild laughter and Lena's syrupy cooing came through crystal clear. "We're streaming a challenge, locking the company's ice queen in the freezer to see how long she lasts. Rachel, give our livestream family a smile, okay?" As the video played, the color drained from their faces. They began to shake, lips quivering, unable to say a word. This is edited," Lena suddenly shrieked. "Rachel faked it. He knows computers, he's trying to frame us." "Yes, fake." Eric grabbed at the claim like a lifeline. "Officers, you can't believe him, he's crazy." The officer stopped the video and looked at them without expression. "This recording, along with the real-time barrage comments from 400,000 viewers, has already been sent to our forensics team. Also, we've located the top patron. He has confessed to paying to watch a murder on livestream, and..." The room went dead silent. Every trace of blood left Eric and Lena's faces. They slumped in their chairs like their bones had been pulled out. "And no," Lena kept murmuring, "I'm pregnant. I can't go to jail. I'm a pregnant woman, you can't arrest me." Eric jerked his head up, and glared at the glass, his eyes brimming with venom and hate. "Rachel," he howled, hurling himself at the glass and smashing his head against it. "You vicious woman. How could you do this to me? What did I ever do to you that you'd ruin me like this? I only wanted to be with the woman I love. What's my crime? You destroyed me. You destroyed my child. I'll haunt you, even if I die." The officers rushed in and slammed him to the floor. He kept cursing, thrashing like a rabid dog. I watched him quietly, my heart calm as still water. "Eric," I thought, "you're not wrong. You only wanted to kill me, and I only wanted you to pay the price. None of us is wrong." The outcome came faster than I expected. The evidence was ironclad. Eric Chen was convicted of attempted murder and unlawful confinement, multiple offenses combined, and sentenced to 15 years. Because Lena Shi was an accomplice and pregnant, she received 3 years to be served under community supervision. The streaming platform was ordered to overhaul its operations for broadcasting violent, bloody content and was fined tens of millions. The top patron, suspected of incitement to commit a crime, was taken into criminal custody. As for me, because what I did was an act of emergency self-preservation, taken when my life was under threat. Because I bore no criminal responsibility, I still couldn't escape civil liability for damaging company property. After Mr. Carter confirmed his precious baby boy was safe, he finally remembered me. The repair costs for the insulation and the cooling system were astronomical, so he took me to court. On the day of the hearing, Eric Chen's parents showed up too. They rushed at me, hitting and cursing. "You jinx, you ruined our whole family. Our son's in prison because of you. What more do you want? Pay up. Give us back our son's youth." The bailiffs blocked them. I looked at their twisted faces and found it darkly funny. Their son tried to commit murder, and they felt no guilt. I destroyed a bit of equipment to survive, and that made me a monster. In court, Mr. Carter's lawyer pressed hard. "Miss Rachel Quinn, as the company's quality control manager, you knew how critical the cold storage insulation was, yet chose the most extreme method, igniting it. That goes beyond the scope of emergency self-preservation. Your actions caused my client nearly 10 million in economic losses. We demand full compensation. 10 million in damages." The words felt like a mountain crushing my chest. Every cent I'd saved over the years, plus the house my parents left me, wouldn't come close. It would take a lifetime to repay. My own attorney argued back. The situation was dire. My client was in severe hypothermia with impaired consciousness. In that condition, she couldn't make the most rational calculations. Her only thought was to stay alive. Igniting the insulation to trigger a full alarm was the only method she could think of, and the only effective way to call for help. As the debate raged, I looked at Mr. Carter's cold face and spoke up. "Mr. Carter." The room fell silent. "I have a question. Was that shipment really purchased from an African tribal chief?" His expression flickered. "That's irrelevant." "It's relevant," I said, holding his gaze. "I processed every document the day it was checked in. The customs declaration listed it as a research sample, donated by a Swiss biotech firm. Donated means free of charge. Mr. Carter, if you paid 200 million for it, why did the declaration say it was a free donation? Were you trying to evade taxes?" The courtroom erupted. Mr. Carter's lawyer shot to his feet. "Objection. The defendant is maliciously leading and slandering my client." The judge rapped the gavel. "Defendant, mind your statements. Do not raise issues unrelated to this case." I didn't look away. 200 million in goods entered as a free donation. How much tax does that save? You know the answer better than I do. If tax and customs dig into this, what happens to your company? Are you sure you want to keep hounding me over a few million in repair costs? Mr. Carter's complexion went from iron blue to chalk white. He stared at me like his eyes might spit fire. I knew I'd bet right. The so-called chief's heir was just a cover story to mislead everyone. He couldn't risk anyone digging deeper. After a long breath, he turned to his attorney. "We're withdrawing the suit." I stepped out of the courthouse into blinding sun. I'd won. I'd lost my job, drained my savings, and still carried a mountain of debt. But I was alive, not going to prison, and no longer shackled to a 10 million judgment. That was enough. I ducked into a small diner and ordered a steaming bowl of noodles. Halfway through, tears started to fall. I didn't even know exactly why I was crying, for a love that had died, for trust that lay in pieces. Maybe I was crying for the me who'd survived. I found a new job quickly, still doing QC at a small logistics company. Life was hard, but steady. Lena C. still messaged me from time to time. Because of the baby, Eric Chen's parents doted on her, calling her daughter-in-law every other sentence. Whatever Lena wanted, they bent over backwards to provide, so much so they barely spared a moment for Eric in prison. In their hearts they already knew Eric was finished. Now I was the Chen family's only real hope. "I'm living the life you always wanted," she wrote. "Rachel, you must be so jealous of me." She kept it up until her due date drew near. Only then did she go quiet. But a few calm days later, Eric's mother suddenly called me. "Rachel, Lena gave birth to a lump of coal. She says it's your doing. Get to the hospital right now. You owe our family an explanation." A lump of charcoal. The thought took root and spread through my mind like wildfire. I grabbed a cab straight to the hospital. As soon as I reached the maternity floor, I heard fierce shouting from the far end of the corridor. "You shameless tramp!" Eric's mother was shrieking. "What sin did our Chen family commit to end up with trash like you? My son's still suffering in prison, and you're out here cheating. Whose seed is this n***er?" Lena's voice came back, weak but razor sharp. "I didn't cheat. This is Eric's child. It's your Chen family's blood." "Liar," Eric's father roared. "8 generations of pure Han in our family. How could we produce a black baby? You think we're idiots?" I leaned against the wall, listening, feeling only the absurdity of it all. The ward door yanked open and Eric's mother burst out, streaked with tears and wild-eyed. She saw me, froze, then lunged like a mad woman. "You, Rachel. You vile woman. You've cursed our family, you ruined us. Did you hex Eric so Lena would give birth to this monster?" She shoved me hard. I staggered into the wall. Nurses and doctors rushed over and dragged her back. I pushed through the knot of people and stepped into the room. Lena lay in the bed, face bloodless, hair a mess. When she saw I'd actually come, a flicker of panic crossed her eyes. The newborn lay in the bassinet beside her, tiny, wrinkled, skin the color of dark chocolate. Perfectly healthy and striking. "What's wrong?" I walked to her bedside and looked down at her. "Don't recognize me?" Lena bit her lip and kept quiet. "The baby's adorable," I said softly, gazing at the infant. "It's just the coloring doesn't look much like Eric Chen." "Shut up," Lena snapped, suddenly overwrought. "He's Eric's child. He is." "Is he?" I smiled. "How interesting. The heir Eric obsessed over, so desperate he'd kill his fiancée to get, turns out to be mixed." I didn't. Lena's composure shattered. She grabbed a pillow and hurled it at me. "So what if the baby is black? He's top-tier genes, 100 times better than a barren woman like you." The whole room went silent. Eric's parents stood there like lightning had struck them. Top-tier genes, the phrase rang so familiar that the memory slammed into me. That 200 million canister, the once-in-a-century, top-tier gene from an African tribal chief. I looked at Lena as a ridiculous, impossible suspicion rose to the surface. "Lena," my voice trembled. "On that business trip to Africa, the one to meet the tribal chief, it was you and Eric Chen who handled it, wasn't it?" Lena's body went rigid. Her eyes started to skitter away, her face turning even paler than before. I don't know what you're talking about." "You do." I locked my gaze on her. "When the shipment was checked in, I reviewed the transfer logs. Both your signatures are on them. You weren't just the liaisons, you escorted it the whole way. From Africa to our company's cold storage, the only 2 people who had direct contact with that chief were you and Eric." Eric's father seemed to catch on too. His hand shook as he pointed at Lena. You shameless." Panic broke Lena open. She struggled upright in the bed, babbling. "No, it's not what you think. I just thought that chief was incredible. Everyone said his genes were once in a century. I wanted a little of that to rub off. I thought if our baby had even a tiny bit of that top-tier gene, Eric would be happier. I never imagined it would turn out like this. I thought he'd just be a little smarter, a little stronger. How was I supposed to know? How was I supposed to know he'd be black?" Her words detonated in the room. Eric's mother's eyes rolled back and she dropped in a faint. His father clutched his chest and collapsed, gasping. I stared at the farce unfolding before me and finally couldn't help it. I laughed, hard enough that tears spilled. Retribution. The most precise, most cutting retribution under heaven. For this so-called top-tier gene, Eric cast me aside, schemed against me, even tried to kill me. He thought he'd grasped the world, and in the end, he only spent 9 months raising another man's child, one he looked down on most. The baby he assumed belonged to backward, savage Africa. The heir he obsessed over had nothing to do with him from the very beginning. The paradise he dreamed of was only the delusion of a foolish, greedy woman. His life, his pride, everything about him had become a complete joke. Eric learned the truth in prison. His attorney told him during a meeting. I don't know what his face looked like then. I only know he went mad from that day on. He started attacking people in the prison, biting anyone he met, mumbling the same line over and over, my son. Later, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and transferred from prison to a psychiatric hospital. The Chen family collapsed. Eric's father, overstimulated, suffered a stroke and was left partially paralyzed. His mother couldn't bear the blow. She wept all day and told anyone who would listen that I, Rachel Quinn, was a jinx and Lena was a seductress. After the hospital fiasco, the Chens threw Lena out. She had no job, no money, and a newborn to feed. She wanted to abandon the baby, but didn't dare. She wanted to find the child's biological father, but she didn't even know the chief's name. She came to me once, knelt at my door with that dark-skinned infant in her arms, begging for forgiveness, begging me for a loan. Rachel, I was wrong. I was really wrong. For the child's sake, please help me. He's a life, too. I looked at the sleeping baby in her arms. He was innocent, but his mother's stupidity and greed had already stamped tragedy across his life. I didn't soften. I only told her quietly, when you locked me in that freezer, did it ever cross your mind that I'm a life too? Then I closed the door. Her desperate sobbing echoed outside my door. After that, I never saw her again. I heard she took the baby to a small city in the south and scraped by on odd jobs and tiny donations from Weibo. A year later, I put all my savings together and borrowed from friends to open a small trading company. I still did quality control, but this time, I worked for myself. As for Mr. Carter, his days weren't easy either. The tax evasion finally got exposed. His company was fined into the ground and its reputation was ruined. And that AF001 he'd pinned his hopes on? During artificial insemination, they discovered that a tiny mistake in the thawing process had rendered it completely non-viable. He'd spent $200 million on a vial of dead fluid. His heir plan went up in smoke. Another mid-autumn festival came. I sat alone in my new office, the city lights spilling across the windows, the moonlight soft as water. I stood and walked to the window, looking up at the full moon. I drew a long breath. The air held no more freezer-burned chill, no acrid reek of smoke, only freedom and a new beginning. My life was like that moon. Even if clouds had once smothered it, it would become bright and whole again.